I had totally forgotten about this story until my girlfriend reminded me of it a couple of days ago. I started dating my girlfriend at the end of my senior year, and before we started dating, I used multiple dating apps. In many of my dating app profiles, I had my Snapchat listed so that people could add me. This is important. Nothing led to anything with the dating apps, and I talked to people for a bit, and eventually the conversation would die out. When I began dating my girlfriend, I had deleted the apps but never deleted my account, meaning people could still see my profile and my Snapchat in it. I realized this after a few people would add me, but it didn't go anywhere because I'd tell them that I had a girlfriend. As you would imagine, the conversation would end there. But there was this one guy that added me, let's call him Adam, and he asked me if I was available. Being straight, I was used to guys adding me, so I gave him the usual response. Sorry, I'm straight and I have a girlfriend. I expected him to leave me alone, but he didn't. At first, the messages were normal. How was your day? What did you do today? Simple stuff like that. Being the nice guy that I am, I responded because I thought this guy just wanted to be friends and having a gay friend is okay with me. But then, the messages progressively got more creepy. He started asking questions about my girlfriend, and not the basic questions. Questions like, do you guys have sex a lot? Does she like how you're good in bed? I simply responded with, those are kind of personal questions, and I don't feel like it's right for me to share my dating business. Adam would always apologize and not talk to me for a few days. Then he would hit me up again and ask creepy questions again. I eventually told my girlfriend about the situation, and for those who don't know, my girlfriend is super sweet, but she is also very aggressively protective over me. So she adds this guy and basically tells him that he needs to leave me alone. Unfortunately, this enraged Adam, who responded with saying that I need to dump this bitch now because she's a cunt. Naturally, I defend my girlfriend and block Adam. Everything was cool for a week until another account added me. The guy's name was Tyler, and he was super chill. He was super nice to me and respected my relationship with my girlfriend. As the days go by, I start to notice that Tyler's vocabulary was very similar to Adam's. I wasn't sure about it, so I didn't make any assumptions that it was him. So I gave Tyler's snap to my girlfriend, who adds him to investigate. As soon as she adds Tyler's snap, Tyler flips out on her, which confirmed that it was Adam. As soon as this realization is made, I block him again. From here, everything goes quiet from Adam for about a month. So, I live in the suburbs of Chicago, and both my girlfriend and I live down the street from each other. So naturally, we do see each other a lot, and both our families are really good friends. On top of that, our families would also house sit or pet sit for each other. Anyway, a month goes by until I get a letter with no address or name on it, just my name on the front. I open it, and to my shock and horror, it's basically a love letter from Adam. The premise of the letter was basically him saying that he loves me and he wants me to run off with him. The letter also takes a very sexual turn halfway through, with him describing what he wants me to do with him and him to do to me. At this moment, two horrifying realizations hit me. One, that he knows my address, and two, he dropped that letter off himself, meaning that he is in my town. I immediately call my girlfriend, who is equally as shocked as I am, and after consulting with my parents, we call the cops. Unfortunately, Since I had blocked as well as removed Adam's social media information and that the letter had no return address, there was nothing we could do about it. Day after day, letters would keep appearing in my mailbox until they also started appearing in my girlfriend's mailbox as well. Her letters were far worse than mine. Adam wrote of how much he hated her and how much he wanted to hurt her. He also stated many times of the ways he would inflict pain on her until she broke up with me. Like me, she took this to the cops. But again, they could do nothing about it. My girlfriend's family had plans to go to Hawaii for vacation, and I was to house sit for them. The first couple days went fine, until around one or the last nights of the week. As per usual, I was over at their house, watching TV on the couch, when the power went out. Mind you, it was around 1 a.m., and it was pitch black when those lights went out. The next few seconds were silent when I heard a window smash from the office. To understand this more, let me give you the layout of the house. When you entered the front door, to your left was the living room, straight ahead was both the kitchen and stairs, and to the right was the office and dining room. On the upstairs level, as soon as you reached the top of the stairs, a bathroom was straight ahead, and my girlfriend's room was on the right, and the other bedrooms were on the left. Immediately, I shot up. I grabbed a kitchen knife and ran upstairs to hide while I called the cops. I quickly got into my girlfriend's room and slipped into the closet. As soon as I was able to contact the operator, I heard the pounding of the intruder running up the steps. Thankfully, I had relayed all the information to the operator in time, who then stayed on the phone as we both remained quiet. The intruder took a left when he reached the top of the stairs, which gave more time for the cops to arrive and for me to get ready, just in case I needed to defend myself. A few minutes go by until I heard the intruder start walking towards my girlfriend's room. In the only few precious seconds that I had, I slipped out of the closet and positioned myself next to the door. As soon as he opened the door and started to enter the room, I took the kitchen knife and drove it into his shoulder. A young man screamed in pain as I heard a heavy metallic object make a large thud as it hit the ground. From there, I bolted out of the house, where I was met by 4 squad cars and cops with their guns raised. I threw my hands up shouting that he was upstairs in the right room. A few minutes go by and the intruder was dragged out, still screaming in pain. With the siren lights flooding the street, I got a glimpse of his face. It was Adam, and I was informed later by an officer the metallic thud was made by him dropping a handgun. Adam was from Texas, and he traveled up to my state to be with me. He had rented a room at a local motel. I would put letters in both my girlfriend's and my mailbox daily. He would do this in the early hours of the morning, which was confirmed by the security footage of the motel that he was staying at. That night, Adam had plans to kill my girlfriend and her family so that I would choose to be with him. He managed to pry open the power box and switch off the power to her house along with neighboring houses, and then broke in with the intent of her being there. Well, unfortunately for him, she was enjoying a tropical vacation. To be honest, I have no idea how this outcome would be different if they did not go on vacation, and I am grateful that I still have my girlfriend as well as her family alive. So Adam, please stay the fuck away from my girlfriend and me.
This went down like an hour ago, so I guess I just found out why people don't pick up hitchhikers now. As I was driving from Texas to Cali, around an hour after I started my drive, I saw this guy with his dog on Route 66, in the middle of nowhere. at least 3 miles away from even the nearest gas station. It's cold, and I wasn't in a rush, so I decided to ask him if he wanted a ride. Turns out, he was trying to go to a city in Arizona that was only 20 miles off my route, so I offered to let them join the trip. He was chill, seemed normal, and looked like he cared for his dog. His original story was that he started walking in Mississippi. After some bullshit reason, he lost his job and everything went down the drain, so he walked/hitched to Texas, where he got stuck for 3 months and was trying to get to his mum so she could help him out. I bought him some food after asking if he ate, which he said he hadn't. Them good deed endorphins had hit just right, and I feel like I'm doing a good thing. After around 200 miles, he tells me he just called his mum while I was refilling my gas, and apparently she went to LA for a vacation, so he would just ride with me until I got to Cali. Okay, kinda weird and sporadic, but I didn't pay it too much mind. We chatted again and seemed pretty normal until we got to Arizona. He starts bringing up Trump and how the election was stolen by pedophiles during this timeline. Okay, red flag. But I just ask him to drop it, as I don't like to talk about politics. He then asks if I could just drop him off at his, quote, 2 girlfriends at his house, which he got after his mum passed, and he inherited it in a town in Arizona. He said he called beforehand and they are expecting him after 3 months away. Also, he mentions, almost like nothing during an earlier convo, that he has mild schizophrenia. I started putting it all together. Oh shit, I don't think he even has a coherent goal of what he's doing. So, when we get to Arizona finally, and we're on the last 10 miles to his now 1 girlfriend, which he claims he loves, I start to wonder, am I about to drop a mentally ill man off 2 states away in the middle of nowhere, where it's about to get freezing temperatures tonight? Oh, and plot twist, he apparently didn't even have a phone. As we got to his girlfriend's house, I told him, hey, do you want me to wait here just in case she isn't home? Thinking I could at least talk him into letting me drop him off at a nearby homeless shelter or something. And exactly what I thought happened. Oh, I guess I got the wrong info, and she doesn't live there. My other family members live there though. Yeah, let's just go to Cali to see my mum. So he sat down in the car, which I have been driving with him for over 9 hours. I told him that maybe he isn't in the best mental state at the moment, and his mental illness could be playing tricks with him. He flipped his shit out of nowhere and said if I bring up his schizophrenia again, he would kill me. He wasn't threatening at all, so I simply said, bro, I don't feel comfortable driving you to Cali, but I don't want to leave you and your dog in the about to be freezing cold. Do you at least want me to drop you off at a homeless shelter? Fuck it, I'll just walk to Cali myself, he said, in the mountain town of Arizona, where it's about to be freezing cold and he has no money, food or water with him, at least 10 miles down a pretty uninhabited road. And I'm pretty sure he didn't have family that lived in the house that we went to. And he just left with his dog, and I sat there dumbfounded, and then left as there was nothing more I could have done at this point. I don't know where you are, dude, but I hope you're safe, and get fucking help, for you and your dog's sake.
This happened a few years ago, but it still freaks me out when I think about how differently it could have turned out. My hubby, baby, and I used to live in not the greatest apartment complex. There were 3 sections of the complex with a total of 6 apartments, 3 on top and 3 on the bottom, and 2 different buildings within each section. I lived in the upper level middle apartment of the second building in the second section. I got along with my neighbors fine. We actually all moved into our apartments within a few weeks of each other. To my left is a woman that we will call Barb. She's in her 50s and lives alone. Barb is a drinker and a big participant of any substances that would make her feel good. She has a rotation of man friends that come and go. Well, all fine by me. She gives me no issues, so I don't really give a fuck about what she does. But it needs to be mentioned for story purposes. I already mentioned that these weren't the best apartments. They were income-based, old, and cheap. I'm pretty sure the walls were insulated with newspaper if they had any insulation at all. So you could hear basically everything from both surrounding apartments and a lot from the units below. Only time it really became an issue is during nap time and nighttime. That's when something would either prevent my 1-year-old from sleeping or wake him up. It didn't happen often, and when it did, I was always able to knock on the noise culprit's door and handle it with no issues. Since my child was still a baby and I was constantly exhausted, 90% of the time his bedtime was my bedtime. Our bedrooms were on the opposite end of the apartment from the living room, kitchen, balcony, and Barb's apartment. We also slept with both a noise machine and a fan to drown out any noise disturbances during the night. This particular night though, my husband was off work and we decided to watch a movie. There was a party going on in the first building of our section. Barb was friends with the party throwers and we could hear her in and out of her apartment door several times, as well as all party people who were outside smoking. At some point during the movie, I fell asleep using my husband's lap as a pillow. Around 2 a.m., loud laughing from Barb's apartment wakes me up. I get up to pee and brush my teeth before coming back to kiss my husband goodnight and get in bed, do my business, and making my way back up the hall to the living room from the bathroom to tell my husband goodnight, and I hear knocking on Barb's door, followed with what sounds like her door exploding off its hinges and flying into the wall that separates her apartment and ours. My husband and I both say, "What the fuck?" at the same time, and I kind of just freeze. We hear Barb and a man talking, and it sounded like normal talking. They weren't yelling or anything. So we chalked it up to Barb and her guest having a little too much fun at the party and shrugged it off. I get in bed and quickly fall back asleep. No more than 10 minutes after getting in bed, I wake up to what sounds like heavy furniture being body slammed coming from Barb's apartment. Woke up from the second slumber disturbance, and knowing this is going to wake up my kid, I make my way back to the living room, planning to put my slippers on and knock on Barb's door and kindly ask her to shut the fuck up. I first walk out onto my balcony to smoke a cigarette, hoping she realizes how loud whatever the fuck she's got going on and fix it without being asked. The body slamming furniture only gets even louder while on the balcony, so I assume they've worked their way through her apartment and are body slamming her bedroom furniture now. Even more irritated now, I decide Barb's too blitzed to realize how loud she was being, and I'm going to have to remind her that none of us are deaf in my apartment, so she was going to have to move her furniture fight somewhere else or reschedule for normal furniture fighting hours, which are obviously during the day. I stand up and take a few steps towards Barb's bedroom window, where our small bucket for cigarette butts sits on the ledge of my balcony. Her bedroom window and the closest edge of my balcony to her window are only inches apart. She could easily crawl out of her window and onto my balcony or vice versa. And that's when I hear it. Muffled screams, like someone is holding a hand over a mouth, and a man's voice saying in a very low voice, "If you don't shut the fuck up, I'm going to kill you, and you're going to fuck me and like it." Oh fuck, is my first thought. I fly inside the sliding door from my balcony and grab my phone to call 911 while telling my husband Barb is in trouble. He goes out and bangs on her door. Nobody comes, and it's locked because he tried the door handle after not being answered. I'm standing between the living room and the kitchen and on the phone with 911, and my husband walks outside and leans over to see if he can see anything through Barb's windows. The blinds are closed, but a couple of the blind slats are broken, leaving a small crack big enough for my husband to see someone laying on the floor halfway in her bedroom and halfway into her bathroom, and another person standing over them. He tells me, and I relay it to 911 operator while also adding if the police aren't here soon, we were going to bust the door down ourselves. She calmly asked me not to do anything like that, to stay on the line, and that the police were en route and would arrive soon. About 2 minutes later, we hear several pairs of boots coming up the apartment stairs to get to the second level our apartment are on, and then loud pounding and knocking with, "Police department, open up!" I crack my front door to peek out and tell them we can still see 2 people in the back bedroom of Barb's apartment. There are 4 uniformed police officers with their guns drawn, and the one standing in front of my door tells me to get back inside and lock the door. Yes, sir. I go back inside and stand right inside my balcony door to watch for anything, like Barb trying to escape the man or the man trying to escape the cops. I hear another round of police pounding at Barb's door, going unanswered, and then the sound of the door being kicked in. Fire and rescue have shown up by this point, and the whole complex is lit up with lights coming from emergency vehicles. We hear a small scuffle, and then the screen door of her apartment creaked open. I look out of the peephole and see a man in handcuffs being led down the stairs, and then EMT coming up the stairs with a stretcher. A few minutes later, we hear a screen door creak open again, and I see EMT carrying a stretcher with someone in it and open my door. Barb is unconscious and in bad shape. Her face and head were bloody and swelling. The exposed skin of her arms are already bruising. As I'm staring at her in the stretcher going down the stairs in disbelief, the same police officer that told me to get back inside and lock my doors walks out of Barb's apartment and asks if he can speak to my husband and me. I say yes and invite him inside, where he thanks us for calling 911 and tells us he has a little doubt that we saved Barb's life. Ask us what we heard, and I reiterate the whole story from beginning to end, and he takes notes. He thanks us again and leaves. Barb calls me about a week later from the hospital to thank me. I ask how she is, and she tells me that she has a fractured skull and bleeding on her brain, a broken cheekbone and jaw, broken ribs, and lots of bruising all over her body, but feels lucky to be alive and thanks me again. She also tells me the man is someone she has known for several years, that he had showed up to the party right before she went home to her own apartment and was mad that she didn't want to sleep with him, and even madder that she had been super flirty with another person at the party. Several months later, the ADA prosecuting the man calls me and asks me to tell her everything from that night, so I tell her from start to finish too. She asks if I would be willing to testify in court, and I tell her whatever she needs to lock that animal up. A couple of weeks after that, I come home and I have summons on my door to be a witness in the case, but the court date listed has already passed. I call the ADA back and explain, both worried about how me not testifying hurt the case in putting him away, and also if I had a warrant out for my arrest for not showing. She tells me that the date was wrong, but that I'm also not needed. I catch up with Barb a few weeks after that, and she tells me that my recorded call to 911 was used during court and that the guy got 15 years in prison.
So for starters, I've been dating this girl for a while now, her name being Isabel, going on a year very soon, and all is going well in that regard. However, when we first met, she told me about a less than ideal ex-boyfriend she had a couple of years before she had met me. They still went to the same school, and he ended up going to the same university as us after we graduated high school as well. Apart from that, all three of us went to the same church, meaning there was a lot of opportunity for him to meet us. The creepy encounters with him, Jose being his name, started a little while before we graduated high school. After he heard we were dating, he was furious, even going as far as to try and say I was sexually abusive on Twitter, but nobody believed him, given his accusation was complete horseshit, and he was notorious for doing the same in the past in order to keep Isabel from talking to other guys when they were together. That was just the beginning though. It started off small at first, seeing him at the mall whenever we would go out on dates, before it was illegal to go outside, that is. After a while, it seemed like a little too much to seem like a coincidence though. He started showing up at our church, which, although wouldn't ever really be abnormal, he all of a sudden joined the same youth ministry as well. It seemed as if he was trying to get as close to us as possible at all times. There was one instance I remember very specifically at a grad party everyone was invited to. Everyone was in the backyard, and I remember looking across the patio and just seeing him staring at me and Isabel from the other side. His eyes didn't move, and his breathing was very heavy, as if he was angry, anxious, or both. He didn't try anything that night though, probably because of the other people there that night. After I left the party and dropped off my girlfriend at her house for the night, I saw a black car following me for the majority of the way home, which I didn't really think much of. And not to sound like that guy or anything, but I wasn't too worried about it either. I'm fairly well built and have done martial arts for a little over 6 years. The next day, that same car was tailing me almost the whole day while I was running errands. Things got a little heated in the afternoon though. I was sitting in my car outside of a store waiting for a curbside pickup when he parked a few spaces down from me, got out of his car, and came up to my window. He started yelling at me, saying I would never be good enough for Isabel, and that she still loved him no matter what I thought, and that he was going to make sure she and I weren't together. I just tried to ignore him. Starting anything probably would have been a bad move, given that he hadn't even touched me or my car, but I was still a little heated. After heading home, it was already pretty late, so I just played video games for a while, till I was tired enough to go to sleep. When I was walking back to my room, I saw him from my window, just standing there on the sidewalk, looking right at me. The only reason I knew it was him was because of the light from one of the street lamps. My parents had also seen him and asked me to go check it out, since they aren't the youngest of people, and wouldn't be able to do much other than yell at him to go away. But as soon as I walked out, he just got in his car and left. This happened every night for about 3 days straight. The last night I ever saw him was not unlike the others, except this time he didn't leave when I went outside. In fact, he started walking closer to me. I didn't notice until he was a lot closer, but he had something in his hand. I couldn't tell what it was, but it looked like a fairly large knife you would use in the kitchen. Adrenaline kicked in, and I ran back into the house and told my mum to call 911. After which, I went back outside. He was just there in the front yard waiting. When I stepped outside, he said, "Isabel belongs to me, and I'm gonna make that happen no matter what." He ran at me with the knife, but muscle memory kicked in, and I had him pinned down after that. The cops came shortly after, and I explained the situation to them, after which he was arrested with a couple of different charges. I really don't remember. One other thing I do remember, however, was what was inside his car. When the police came, they also searched his car to see if he had anything else I should have been worried about. They found a bunch of tape, some rope, another large knife, a handgun, and a camera. I don't know what was going on through his head, but I could at least guess from that kit he had in his back seat that he planned on hurting me in some way and recording it. I hate to think what would have happened if he had tried to come into my house while everyone was asleep. But I'm glad he was arrested for what he did, or planned to do anyways.
This happened about a month ago, and I still can't shake this traumatic event. I'm a receptionist for a professional office building in Pasadena, California. A female in my mid-20s who spends the long, boring days at my desk listening to my favorite murder, crime junkies, and my new obsession, the Let's Not Meet pod, that I started binging yesterday and got me writing this post. So, it was a normal Tuesday at the office. I got off around 6 p.m. and locked everything up. I make my way down the stairs to the lit-up parking lot and say goodnight to the standing security guard. I pull out my keys in preparation for the long walk to my car, which is located in the employee parking lot. You see, the employee parking lot is a block away from my office building on a secluded street with literally no street lights or through traffic. I'm not sure why this street has 0 street lights, but it does. Normally, it's not dark out by 6 p.m., but since it's November, it's pitch black by this time. So, as a routine, I always pull out my keys while I'm in the lit-up parking lot and call my boyfriend just in case I get murdered or something. This situation made me realize that my boyfriend can't help me through the phone. So I'm talking to my boyfriend with keys in my hand, and I see a tall, dark figure on the sidewalk that I'm walking on to get to my car. I say something to my boyfriend, and I see the dark figure walking towards me. So I flip on my phone light and shine it in his face, and he says, "Who the fuck you talking to, bitch?" I immediately go off the sidewalk and into the street to get away and say, "My boyfriend?" I could tell right away that he was a dirty meth head homeless man with a huge beard, khaki shorts, and a ball cap. He then starts yelling at me, "Who you talking to, bitch?" louder, and follows me in the street. I literally stop and show him my phone like an idiot, trying to prove that I wasn't talking to him. He then comes up to me at an arm's distance and starts calling me awful names and demanding that I go to the other side of the street as if he owned the place. We are both in the middle of the street now, and I knew if I crossed to the other side, I would just have to cross again, as my car was on the side of the crazy homeless man. I told him, "Get the fuck away from me! I'm calling the police now," with the most disgusted look on my face. I'm not a bitch to be messed with. He then puts his hand in the shape of a gun, puts his finger up to my head, in the middle of the pandemic, 6 feet, sir, and in a meth head-induced slur says, I'll kill you, bitch. Right here, you fat cunt. I'll kill you. My heart sank. At that moment, I realized that this guy was out of his mind, angry and violent. I start to rush towards my car, all while my boyfriend's on the phone saying, "What's going on? Get in your car! Put your keys between your fingers and run!" I see the man run towards my car, and lucky I dodged him. I pressed the unlock button and got in super quick. He's now standing right in front of my car and proceeds to kick my front bumper hard, saying, "Fuck you! You better not be calling the cops!" on repeat. He then runs behind the dumpster and is like spying on me behind the dumpster as I'm pulling out. He then starts running around my car towards the front, and I truly thought that I'd have to run him over. He starts chasing my car down the road and then stops at his belongings. I peel into my office building and flag down the security guard, hysterical. I told him, "There's a crazy man that just threatened to kill me." I call the cops and see the man booking it down the street, which gave me the perfect view of his face and outfit. The cops sent officers out, and I left the scene 5 minutes later. The crazy man was still on the corner, just standing there when I was leaving, so I screamed, "Fuck you!" as I drove off. He tried to run after my car, but apparently, the cops couldn't find him, even sent a helicopter. I later found out that he tried to rob my coworker this night, but was unsuccessful. The next morning, I saw the crazy man back in front of the employee parking, but 2 cop cars were surrounding him, and he was arrested. I was happy and anxious that I had to see this crazy man yet again. He proceeded to hang around the street for the next 2 weeks. I constantly saw him in the morning and on my lunch. I was so paranoid that he was looking for me. I thought that's why he kept coming back. He must be looking for me. I messaged our office building manager, and they got a trespassing order on the dude. I hadn't seen him again until this Monday, and he was sleeping at the exact same spot where I encountered him. My heart sinks every time I see him, and I relive my trauma all over again. Our office building now has employees move cars over from the employee parking lot to the main one around 4, so no one is walking in the dark anymore. And we use the buddy system now. I got 2 pepper sprays that I don't go anywhere without now. I always thought that my obsession with true crime had prepared me for any scary situation that's thrown my way. But after this night, I realized that no amount of true crime pods to fight off someone who has a will to harm me. If this man had a real gun, I'd be done for. So, crazy meth head homeless man that almost tried to kill me, let's not meet. Hi, thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you want to send me a story to read, feel free to do so. My email is in the description of the video. And if you want to follow me on my social media, just to get updates or maybe to talk, the links and info for my Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts are also in the description. And finally, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And turn that bell on to be notified for upcoming surprises. And remember, your fear feeds me.